Hey everybody, I'm back with a new Christmas movie review, and today I'll be covering the third Home Alone film. Before I continue, please do me a huge favor and leave a like and follow me in the descriptions below. Check out my Patreon if you want to become a Patreon member. Uh, yeah, man, I did review the first two Home Alone films off of my YouTube channels. You can check that out. And I knew at some point I need to cover Home Alone 3. I figured now is as good a time as any. And it was also written by John Hughes, so it's like, why wouldn't I check it out? And I watched this quite a few times over the years. Now, some people back in the day at first did not hold this film in high regards because it wasn't the same actor, Macaulay Culkin. And honestly, I don't think he really wanted to come back for the third film. Plus, he was getting older at the time, and it's hard to do a film like this if the kid is not necessarily a kid anymore. And it's the 10 times more interesting when you have a kid trying to fend off people breaking into your house. Because at that point, it's just more gruesome than whimsy and hilarious. Uh, so, this was directed by Raja Garsnell, his first directorial debut. He will later direct films such as Never Been Kissed, Big Mama's House, the first two Scooby Doo films, I think the live action ones. No, not the live action ones. It has to be, yeah, the first two live action Scooby Doo films. Beverly Hills Chihuahua, the first two Smurfs films, the live action ones. Show Dogs. So, yeah. Uh, so he does a lot of family films, which is fine. But, you know, depending on your taste, this has been kind of like a spotty record in terms of movie enjoyment, or like at least done well, I should say. Because personally, I think maybe like the first live action Scooby Doo film, Big Mama's House, depending on your point of view, was a decent success and kind of funny. Home Alone 3, yeah, in my personal opinion, those are ones that you can argue might have been his most successful films. Everything else is like, ugh. But anyway, this once again is written by John Hughes, so it has some level of credibility. This is probably why there's some still level of enjoyment from this film. Unlike the later Home Alone films that will come down the line, which I refuse to see because they just get progressively worse. And it's probably because as technology evolved, it's hard to actually do what uh, uh, Kevin McAllister and Alex does in the time frame that they done them in, because we didn't have like, I mean, there was home security, but not to the same degree as we would have it in the mid 2000s and moving forward. Uh, Especially if you got like one of the Home Alone films actually have some kind of smart house to do most of your traps for you. So it's kind of like you kind of taking like the agency and the ingenuity of the kid when they're doing something like making traps. It's like, then what's the point if the house is doing everything for you? That is definitely lame. And there's some level of whimsy and charm in the first three Home Alone films that the later ones doesn't uh, spark that. And I think it's mainly because of the capability of John Hughes that it still has that smart writing. Yeah, and then it gets way too cartoony. Maybe it's because we get, most of us grew up with the first three Home Alone films. You know, uh, who grew up with the first three Home Alone films is like the. It's hard to say. The villains in those first three films were fun and smartly ish written. While you know the later villains seems like bumbling idiots, and it's like you're treated as more like a cartoon instead of like a decent family film. It's like I said, it depends on your point of view. For me personally, I think, cause I watched a little bit of Home Alone 4 years ago, and I could not get into it at all. It just become like dumb schlock. And then like the more recent one is just like, ugh, it has gotten progressively worse. I could not get into it at all. But anyway, uh back to three. I think they should have ended the franchise at three. You couldn't like really mine anymore from this. But we got Alex D. Lentz playing Alex Pruitt, the 8-year-old boy, main star of the show, who have done an impressive job because he was the main character of this film, and he's like, his acting is like, just from 8 years old was already, like almost like saying nearly the same part as almost everybody else. Honestly, it's very incredible. Uh, he was also in films like Max Keeble's Big Move, but he retired from acting in 2007. It's like which is fine. It's like he's just living like a nice, quiet life. Obviously, looks like he's like a legal researcher in Los Angeles and lead science instructor. So he's done very well for himself. Has a nice, job. So yeah, looks like he was in The Cable Guy as Tony, like an uncredited but small little role. But then it's like his big debut, honestly, probably would have been Home Alone 3. He was young Tarzan in the 1999 Tarzan film, as the voice of the animated film for young Tarzan. He Titan 8E as young Cale Tucker. Max Keeble's Big Move. Uh, yeah. His last two films in 2007 he did was Order Up and Choose Connor. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he still gets residuals from a lot of his work. So like, yeah, he's do pretty well for himself. Congratulations to that guy. Then we got Oleg Krupa as Peter Borpri, the leader of this group of villains. Haviland Morris as Karen Pruitt, the mother of Alex. Kevin Kilner as Jack Pruitt, the father. Scarlett Johansson, a young role of hers, as Molly Pruitt, the older sister of Alex. Seth Smith as Stan Pruitt, the older brother of Alex. David Thornton as Earl Unger, one of the other bad guys, along with Lenny Von Dohan as Burton Jernigan, another part of this band of criminals. And then Raya Kostide as Alice Ribbons as the female member of this group of villains. So these four villains here. So the movie opens up almost like a spy movie, and it's very interesting because we kind of evolved the bad guys a bit, which is I thought was very interesting because you ain't dealing with these petty thieves like with the Sticky Bandits. Now you're dealing with, you would assume are more competent level of villains. It's kind of like a step up. You're dealing with international spies essentially. So they are hired by this Hong Kong terrorist to get this unique chip that messes up guided missiles and something like that is like worth like millions and millions of dollars. So they end up going to San Francisco to do an exchange for the chip in exchange for money. Now the guy they meet up, I swear to you, is just like almost any other spy film. You would think like, oh, either A, they put a bullet in this guy's head and leave him at the docks, or B, as soon as he tried to open up the bag thinking it's money, the car blows up. But mind you, it's a kids film, so they probably wouldn't have gone through that route. But the way the scene is played, you assume that, and you're probably right to assume that. But no, he's fine. He got his money. He's going about his way. So they hide the chip inside a remote control toy car just to avoid detection at the airlines on the way back to Hong Kong. But mind you, this is late 90s. This is way before 9/11. So because after it, they would have checked every nook and cranny of your stuff. So, times were different then. It's like you'll argue it was a lot more easygoing with the airlines in the 90s. But anyway, so as they are going through the check, through TSA, this old woman who will follow partially picks up this a bag containing the remote control car, thinking it was hers because they had the similar bags. And now they're scrambling to trying to find the bag containing that car. And they're searching other travelers who happen to have the similar bag because it has some kind of airline logo or something on it. And this old lady is boarding a plane on her way back to Chicago. And so now the people follow her. They have to take a trip to Chicago in order to find this lady and get the chip. And mind you, it still has holiday decorations around, but this is set in early January, so long after the new year and everything like that. But you still qualify this as a Christmas movie because the holiday decorations and everything like that, the atmosphere, it just still rings Christmas. So after checking with the cab that drove the old lady home, they figure out the neighborhood that she's at. But they have to, given the description that the cab driver provided them, isn't the same when they get there. So now they got to go pretty much like investigate each house until they come across the thing that they're looking for. There's where we meet Alex for the first time as he's, getting paid to shovel people's snow. And he's shoveling the snow with this old lady who, okay, now I'm thinking about it. It's like, okay, why are you just now shoveling her snow when she's already on her way back home? You would think that job would have been done before she even got home. But never mind that. Why is this woman, who we'll know now as Mrs. Hess, is such a bitch? She is a crabby ass woman. And this little 8-year-old kid bundled up to the nines, coming out in the evening, mind you, before dinner time, to shovel your snow. And you are giving him the riot act. And once you realize that she picked up the wrong bag, she kind of like give him like attitude and stuff like that. And it's like the way you did it, or like the way you did it, like you shoveled my snow, is like, it's not up to snuff and blah blah blah. And the kid, like, you're immediately warmed up to the kid, because to make you root for the kid has to have some type of likability. So unlike Alex, who has both characters has some type of like level of maturity to them despite their age, but unlike Alex, Kevin has a bit of like a wise assness to him. And it kind of adds to the charm, because at that time we never really see something like that in kids movies, where the kid is kind of smarter than you give him credit for despite his age. Here you kind of flip it, where Alex is a genuinely nice kid, but certain people around, like Mrs. Hess or his brother and sister, kind of giving him grief for no apparent reason. But he taking it in stride, and he apologized to the old lady. He's like, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hess, no charge." And it's like, look, you will give the kid. She does give the kid the toy car as payment, because so you can tell the neighborhood that I stiffed you. I think not. I mean, you're not sullying my reputation and blah blah blah. I was like, why are you such a bitch to this kid? He's 8 years old. Just pay the kid. Sure, like, you can offer some criticism, but not to the degree, like, you're not talking to, if it was one of the teenagers, sure, maybe. But this is like an 8-year-old boy, and he's probably like his first time, doing like a job, essentially. So you can offer your critique, so you can always do better later. But he's out, and is, the sun is down. Bitter cold in Chicago. They shot this in Evanston, Illinois, apparently. It's bitter cold. Sun is down. And he's shoveling snow. Don't know if he had to shovel anybody else's driveways besides yours, but you would think this kid is shivering to the nines, and you're giving him the riot act. I was like, God, I do not like this character. And they try to dare redeem this chick by the end of the film. Like, shut up. I don't like you. The way you carrying on, like, bitter attitude for most of the film, every time we saw you. And it's like, it's one of those characters, like, they try to redeem way too late in the game of a film. It's like, no, I don't like you. You may not be the villain, but you're an asshole. Like, it's not even a charming asshole like Tony Stark. You're just a bitter old lady. So she hands Alex the toy car as compensation for his work, which holds the chip inside. He goes in and discovers he has chicken pox. So the parents, which I like, another thing that's different from the first two films that John Hughes, kind of changed around in the writing. Okay, this time we need to have the family be likable, rather than Kevin's family, who for the most part is just unnecessarily mean. So we gotta have like a nice, more warming family, besides maybe the two older siblings, because siblings tend to mock and tease each other from time to time, so it's to be expected. So you gotta at least keep that some element of that in there, but the parents gotta be still likable and not leave the kid home alone. At least justify leaving the kid home alone rather than just being negligent. So they had to change some stuff up there, which I think was nice for this film. Because even though we don't, not many people remember the parents here. Like, honestly, you don't really recall their names like that. But you can never say they were neglectful parents. Unlike the mom in the previous, or at least the family in general, but specifically the mom in the previous Home Alone films, like, you argue are irresponsible parents. Like, you leave your kid home alone twice because you don't bother to double check everything, or at least make sure you had that kid strapped to your leg practically just to make sure you got him this time. Here, you got a legit excuse that no one can ever argue that they were neglectful parents. But because of her negligence, she was more memorable, which is kind of like a catch-22. Anyway, the dad has a business trip, so he has to go to work. But the mom tries to stay home, but because one of the bosses isn't understanding, and I'm glad she called him out on it, that she are being forced to come all the way down to her job to do this kind of quick presentation, show her face, and talk up this whatever business. No more than an hour, and then dip out because, she says, like, I don't appreciate you having to force me to choose between my job and my son. If you do this again, like, I don't care. You can fire me. I don't care because that ain't right. I'm glad she, nipped this in the bud. Because any other director probably would have left that crap out or overlooked that, because any parent would have chewed out their boss or co-worker, whomever that has to practically drag her to work to do something that they seem can't deal with on their own for the time being. So she has to leave Alex home alone, but she notified Mrs. Hess to every once in a while check up on Alex just to make sure he's doing all right. So it's very responsible, even though it's not cool, she's not cool with it, but she's handling leaving her child home alone more responsible than most other parents that you probably see doing something like this. So, while Alex is home, these spies starts, breaking into these neighbors' houses. Alex sees them, calls 911. And of course, they're so good they end up avoiding detection by the cops. But the cops definitely break in like they're freaking SWAT team, because unlike when the cops come over to try to check to see if Alex was home, but they didn't do like a thorough job, but they don't come breaking down like there's the SWAT team, trying to infiltrate a drug kingpin's house. They knock on the door, inspect the windows, blah, blah, blah. Typical what you probably would see a local beat cop would do. Here, they got to have like these beat cops burst down this door, ready to like cap somebody immediately. I was like, okay, you went way too far in the other direction with this. But now the parents are mad because they didn't find nobody, and the neighbors who door was broken into by the cops. Now Alex's parents had to replace the door. It's like, no, the police need to replace the door. You ain't responsible for that. But they chastise Alex thinking he making it up, and it's like, I don't recall any 8-year-old making something like this up. What does Alex get out of this by making up something like this? And of course, he doesn't have any proof, so you can't blame them for feeling the way they're feeling. But you can also say Alex seems like a good kid. He seems very smart. He has these little gizmos that he uses. You can believe he will grow up to be some kind of tech whiz. But it's like he doesn't come across as like a punk kid, because if that was the case, then I will buy their reaction that they give Alex about quote unquote making up stories. But he doesn't seem like that type of person. And by the way, it would be interesting to have like some type of, I don't know what studio would do this, but some type of thing where behind the scenes that, they get all the main stars of all those Home Alone films to come together in some type of commercial or gimmick or something or other, just for them to shoot the shit and talk about their experience with the Home Alone franchise. Like every guy, whoever was the main star of the Home Alone, their respective Home Alone films, that would be fun to see. How dope would that be? Just to watch them talk about their experiences. How fun that is. And even though he's retired, it'd be fun to after Alex comes back to talk with the other actors of their respective Home Alone films and his experiences, and he gets some type of renaissance, and people try to cast him and stuff, and just to see is like kind of like Ke Huy Quan got his little resurgence after Everywhere All at Once, or even with Keanu Reeves after John Wick, he got his little resurgence. That'd be dope. Even though he's technically retired and he probably doesn't want to be involved with Hollywood or acting in general, it'd just be fun to see him after all these years. I'm just saying. So after attempting to try to record these thieves breaking in the house, they end up finding the camcorder but leaving the RC car. But they seem like Alex noticed they seemed more interested in trying to get the RC car. I didn't mean say like leave RC car, but they seemed more interested in the car more so than the camera. They wanted the camera too, but he thought that was curious. He ends up getting the car back into the house, and then after inspecting it, he notices the chip. He finds the serial numbers, calls like a local recruitment office to write down the serial numbers to see if it means anything. But then after the thieves find out about Alex, they got like a 24-hour window after their bosses from Hong Kong says like, look, if you don't have our chip to us in 24 hours, we'll have to cut all loose ends. And obviously not so subtly hint that they will bump them off. So time is a factor. So Alex decides that, okay, now I gotta booby trap my house because they know where I'm at now. So I gotta protect myself and make sure like I hold on to this chip in order to for the proper authorities to come acquire it. So this is the best part, honestly. Well, at least in terms of the first three Home Alone films, it's honestly the best part and what people are waiting for. And honestly, sometimes you wish that the traps last a little bit longer. Maybe just the sick side of me just want to see like these criminals get tortured a little bit. Because honestly, after watching Violent Night and reviewing that last year, you can see why if in another type of genre, this would play out like a horror film. Like, oh my God, because these people would legit die from this. Honestly, when I was a little kid, I actually tried to do like a Home Alone style thing, at least try out at least a couple of the traps. And honestly, and I talked with some friends of mine like a while back, and they asked, did any of that work? And I was like, no, actually, no. It's very disappointing, actually. And it's like, it was legit disappointing. At least not every trap, because I knew some of it would be legit dangerous. I just wanted to see if at least one of them worked. Like, for example, I tried to take, when I was living in my grandparents' house as a little kid, I actually tried to get one of the lawn hoses, turn it on, and spray down this porch to allow it to freeze. At no point Cause at least want at least the mailman to see if it slips and falls. None of that happens. I was like, God dog it, none of these traps work. I was very disappointed. Oh, also, since Alex got the chicken pox, I can't help but be reminded, because I remember when I first had the chicken pox, it was legit started at least a day or two before Christmas Day. So I had to spend Christmas Day with chicken pox covered in calamine lotion, and I couldn't really enjoy it with the rest of the family when I was like a little itty bitty kid. Very disappointed. I was like, golly. And I was itching up a storm. Oh, God. Terrible time to celebrate the holiday when you're covered in calamine lotion. So I feel Alex's pain. But honestly, you'll think like, okay, he should be, it's not like he's like sick like the flu or anything like that, but he should be constantly itching up a storm. But he kind of like, I guess, forget about it at a certain point, because he's still kind of covered in like dots and stuff from the chicken pox. And from what I've heard, it's best to have the chicken pox as a little kid rather than as an adult, because I guess it's a little bit more dangerous as an adult. But every once in a while, everybody gets chicken pox at one point or another as a little kid. So I don't know how rare it is for adults to get chicken pox because they never gotten it when they was young. But anyway, so fun ensues when you see, Unger and Mr. Jernigan get electrocuted separately as they try to get past certain things. And I'm glad like these guys have weapons. They're spies. Why wouldn't they have weapons? But they never actually have to use it because Jernigan, who looks kind of like, I always thought that was the guy from Friends, because he got the same facial features as that guy. But he has like, shotgun bullets as like a belt around him. And as he tried to sit down on one of the chairs for a minute, it was electrified and he's frying his butt and the bullet starts going off around him, lighting his butt on fire. And then, Unger and, Peter, gets hit by a trunk full of books and a set of weights, and it's come crashing down on them. Definitely the weights should have killed them immediately. Even though they're not like crazy amount of weights to them, it has probably at least 10 pounds on each side, more than likely. But even still, falling from the height, let's say like 3 feet minimum, like 3 or 4 feet, that definitely should have let them concuss bare minimum. And like they should have been laid out for hours. But then Alice shows up, kind of teases them for like, oh wow, like you got taken down by an infant. And of course she ain't want to talk, because eventually she gets stuck in like some patch of mud and hit twice by 2 sets of vases. So when they eventually get break in, Jernigan gets hit by a lawnmower. Jernigan gets hit in the face by some plaster in a water balloon and stuff like that. Peter gets spray painted in the eyes and punched in the balls by a mechanical makeshift boxing glove. Caused him to fall on his butt, and the shotgun he was carrying in his coat pocket, goes off and fires up on his butt. So they each end up going through the ringer. Alex eventually make it outside, while Unger and Jernigan fall through what you thought was a trampoline, but it's actually the pool area. They end up getting frozen there. They're trapped. Alex, thinking that she can get down faster than going through the steps by going through the dumbwaiter, idiot. And because Alex pulled the table from the inside out, she ends up falling down, which should have permanently crippled her at bare minimum, if not killed her. But the police eventually show up after the FBI gets word about the chip that Alex called in about. They pick up the wife and the children to to let them know about the situation, showing that Alex was not lying about the entire thing. They end up showing up. Cops arrest the three criminals. Of course, Mrs. S got caught by them and tied up. Alex rescues her, but Peter, got the drop on Alex, thinking he has his gun, but at some point along the way, he got the wrong gun because Alex threw away his real gun, and so he has Alex's fake gun that shoots off darts, while Alex threatens Peter and chases him off with he assumes is his real gun, but it's actually another fake gun that's actually a bubble blower. So the family shows up, and the cops show up, and well, at first disappointed that they didn't catch the leader, they find him eventually when the parrot belonging to the older brother lets out the fireworks that's inside one of these makeshift igloos in somebody's backyard, light it up. He eventually gets caught. And now as they get arrested and taking a photo, mug shots, they all are covered in chicken pox, which I thought was so ironic and hilarious. But then, because I never really thought about this until I rewatched this now as an adult, it's like they did get threatened by the Chinese terrorists, so it's kind of dark when you think about that they was warned you got 24 hours, and you think they'll send in some type of hitman to go after these four, and B, since they're international criminals, they probably would have been, Interpol will probably come in play to deport them back to their respective countries to be brought up on charges. But that's me thinking like, I'm watching like a regular kind of spy movie, but that would probably typically would have happened or how it go down. But then, like I said, they try to make Mrs. Hess seem sympathetic by, Alice asking her, have you ever gotten the chicken pox? The last time I got the chicken pox, J. Edgar Hoover was, in the White House. I get it. Ha, she's old. I still don't like you, lady. But that's the end of the film, Home Alone 3. It's a good vibe. It's like, very fun, entertaining. But like I said, they should have probably ended the franchise at 3. Because the later films just get progressively worse. And it kind of missed the spirit of Home Alone franchise. And I don't think you can actually repeat something like Home Alone in this day and age, or modern age in general, because it wouldn't make any sense. And you can't, because, with the way security is these days, and of course, how can you have competent criminals at the same time make them silly? Because I think you was already pushing it with these international spies getting one up by an 8-year-old. But then it's like, okay, we can't do that anymore. So let's get these bumbling nitwit criminals that tried to repeat the Marv and Harry attitude, which you can't repeat. You can't copy and paste that again, because Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern had their own unique flavor to make those characters work. You cannot copy and paste that, unfortunately. There's certain things you just cannot repeat. It's kind of like the same way they try to make that, female Ghostbusters work, because you're trying to copy and paste from what you saw from the first 2 films into this third one, and you can't make that work with Jenna. You can't do the Bill Murray thing and copy and paste that with Jenny McCarthy, because Jenny McCarthy ain't Bill Murray. They got 2 different styles of comedy that works uniquely for them, and you can't copy and paste. And you can't make it too goofy, because that's what happens in the 4th one. The little that I saw is, as I remember it, because it's been years, they made those criminals way too goofy and way too dumb. and it does not work, and it's not funny. But I'm getting off on a tangent here. But like I said, the third one's charming enough. Should have ended at this. But anyway, that was Home Alone 3. I'll figure out what I'll be reviewing for next week for more holiday movie reviews. So stay tuned for that. And stay tuned for tomorrow, as I'll be jumping into, I'll be kind of late later at night, but I'll be jumping into Marvel Rivals. So stay tuned for that, because I'm looking forward to playing that for up on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/talkativecarl, if you want to check out the me playing that live. So it might be a little bit after 10 p.m. My time and Central Time by the time I hop on. So just stay tuned for that. But anyway, I'll see y'all soon. Take care. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Peace. And let me know what you think of Home Alone 3. Because I think it has a lot of love over time than it did around the time when it first came out. Because honestly, I think it's still right up there with, I think in the same degree as Home Alone 2. Nothing ever trumps Home Alone 1. But the first two should be on the same par, in my personal opinion. But anyway, leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you all later. Peace.